Hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless. I am Rachel.
And I'm Melissa, and we are sisters.
And I just have to tell you guys and Melissa that the last one of the most recent ones we did, I literally thought I had my podcast on 2 times the speed because when I started, I was like, hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless. I'm Rachel.
When you were re-listening to it, you mean?
What'd you say?
When you were re-listening to it, it sounded like it was on...
I like started it because every time you click on it to even get the link, it starts playing. And I was like, whoa, how did I turn my podcast on 2 times the speed? So today, did you notice? I was like, hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless.
You pulled out your radio voice.
I slowed down.
So if you have not known Rachel and I our whole life, this is something you might not know about us because I know we both worked really hard to slow down our speaking, but we are really fast talkers.
Oh yeah.
In fact, when Rachel was like in high school, college age, I remember anytime she would like walk in the room and talk and leave, and my dad was in the room, he was just like, a tornado just came by.
Yeah, if you're not watching on YouTube, she's like, her hands are in the air, kind of like her eyes are big.
Around. Yeah, he would just kind of freeze and be like, "What just happened? The tornado just came in."
It's so funny. And they called me a minute in high school.
What'd you say?
They called me mile a minute in high school.
Yeah, and when I was in my early 20s, I was a member service officer, loan officer at a credit union. And when I would have people come in and I would be sharing with them their different options for accounts or their different, I think I got it under control by the time I started doing loans. So this was more like opening up checking and savings accounts, and I would be giving them their options. And I started realizing that people, again, if you're not looking, they would just have this blank deer in the headlight, glazed over stare. Like you could hear crickets chirping. I'd be like, do I need to do that again and slower? So I started intentionally talking slower, and it felt like I was talking.
Yes.
Like we were a sloth on.
Yeah. Like you cannot listen to me on, people cannot listen to me on Marco Polo on like 2 times the speed. I don't even know if people can listen to me on 1.5. You can listen to me on 2 times.
Yeah, but I also always have understood you. I think because we speak.
That's true.
We speak fast. We hear fast.
We speak. There's got to be a word for that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So anyways,
I have in public speaking, I've definitely had to learn to slow down. And the first time I spoke at our church, B, this sweet lady, she's got to be 100. I don't know how old B is, but she's not young.
I sure hope she doesn't hear this and calls you and says, I'm 70.
No, she's not 70. I don't know how old B is, and she's not listening to this, but I do love her so dearly. She came up and said, oh, it was so lovely to see you up there. I couldn't understand a thing you said. So the next time I was like, okay, even slower.
Yes. We have to funnel our Zootopia sloths in those moments. And it just sounds normal to everyone else, but in our brain, it sounds ridiculous.
So speaking of talking too fast for other people, we're going to talk about when we're overstimulated. And I think talking too fast can overstimulate people.
Oh, yes, for sure.
We had a pastor at one of our old churches, and like people would come to visit and they'd be like, oh my gosh, like, how do you even keep up with him? He's like on speed. He just spoke so much, so fast. And it was funny. I just got used to it, but I was like, yeah, you're right. He kind of does. And like, he was a great preacher, but it was a little overstimulating sometimes to listen. And so we're going to talk about when we feel overstimulated in life.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Do you have anything you want to start with, or you want me to dive in?
No, the first thing that came to my mind even though I've known this topic was going to be talked about, but when you just said, let's dive into when we've been overstimulated in life. I remember when my kids were little, I probably had 3 of them at the time, and Bill was over the road, and I was single parenting all the time. And I didn't have a dishwasher, so I had to hand wash everything, which, kids eat like a million snacks a day. And so my kitchen was a disaster. I probably had been in my same clothes for 2 days. And I had poured myself a bowl of cereal and standing in the corner of the kitchen eating, like trying to eat it really fast. And all of my kids came in and were like begging me for it. And I stomped my feet and screamed, "Ah!"
Wait, say it again. We couldn't hear you at all. That was so weird.
What? I went away?
It cut out completely. What did you stomp your feet and say?
Well, I was eating cereal in the corner of the kitchen. I didn't even have like a pantry to go into and hide. And my kids all came at me like asking, can I have a bite? I want a bite, or like crying, or like reaching up and wanting my cereal. And I stomped my feet and screamed at them. And the oldest was probably 3.
Leave
my
me
cereal
alone.
by myself.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah,
I was overstimulated that day.
that is it is overstimulating. I used to call my kids vultures. Like I was like,
Mhm.
back off. Or even now,
Mhm.
they'll be like, "Oh, can I have what you're eating?" I'm like, "You are on your third breakfast, and I am on my first.
Exactly.
No, you
Yeah.
cannot have what I'm eating. I'm hangry
Right.
and I need to eat. And because I took care of all of you, I'm just now getting to eat my food."
Exactly. That's a great way to start out the day.
I know, right? Oh my gosh. And it's like, 10:30 and I've been trying to drink my lukewarm coffee, room
Yeah.
temperature. Lukewarm's probably an over exaggeration. It's probably
Yes.
room temperature. It's not even lukewarm. So yeah, I think whether you have kids or not,
Mhm.
I think overstimulation is a real thing for a lot of women.
Yes.
I don't think most men struggle with it to the same extent that women do, but I do think that men struggle with it too. And I've been really processing this week that like anxiety and being overstimulated in my life are different,
Mhm.
but overstimulation leads to anxiety for me.
That makes sense. No, I agree that they're different because I don't really struggle with anxiety, but I can I know what overstimulates me. Like I'm sitting here just
Right.
thinking, like I can handle we can handle a lot of chaos, right? We have
Yep.
big families. We're
Yep.
from big families. We
More than
come,
most people, we can handle a lot of chaos.
yeah. And yet I know the things that will overstimulate me. Whereas my husband, yeah, Bill does not get overstimulated very
He just
quickly.
tunes everyone out.
I was gonna say, I think men can tune things out because they can
Yeah.
compartmentalize,
Yeah.
whereas women can't the same because we're wired to be thinking about multiple
Right.
things and being
Even
paying
if you're
attention.
not a mom, you have that
Right.
maternal instinct to
Mhm.
mother and like nurture and take care of those
And
around
pay
you.
attention
Yeah.
but Bill does struggle. He does struggle with anxiety. So
Right.
definitely they
Yeah.
aren't the same. I think that's a
Yeah.
good distinction. Yeah.
Well, and when I get when I have really bad anxiety days,
Mhm.
I usually have not even been overstimulated. So it's like I can't even explain where it's come from, right? Like the anxiety has just shown up and like
It's not necessarily to do with overstimulation.
exactly. But
Overstimulation can get you there,
exactly.
but they
But
don't
there
always go
are,
hand in hand.
when I have a very overstimulated day, sometimes I do end up very anxious. But
Yeah.
so I think they're very different. I think we'll do a podcast episode on anxiety sometime. I would like to bring
Mhm.
in someone who really has struggled and like
Mhm.
overcome it. And when I say overcome, I don't mean they don't live with it.
Yeah.
I
They've learned
mean,
how to
they've
manage
learned
it.
how to live with it and not let it rule them. I did ask a friend and she said, "Oh, I just love you. And I'm sure that you would make it so easy for me. And I'm sure that it would be so comfortable, but I'd be so anxious the whole time leading up to it."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that's
was
what
like,
she knows. In order to manage it, she has to say no to things like that. Yeah, that makes
exactly. So I was like,
sense.
okay, so if you're listening to this and you're like, actually, I'm pretty good at public speaking and I think I could do a good job. And like, I, struggle with anxiety, but I do feel I've had victory over it. I think it's a really important topic. And it is one that
Agreed.
I mean, honestly, we could have one of our brothers on too. Like we could
Mhm.
throw a man on here.
We could.
And I do struggle with anxiety, but I think I struggle with, like if 100% is the worst, I'm probably at 20-25%. Right. So like,
Mhm.
I don't claim to have, like, I've never even had a panic attack. I've had what I would say like is an anxiety attack, but it's not the
Mhm.
same. And so that being said, I think I could contribute, and Melissa doesn't really struggle with anxiety, but I don't think that I should be the leading one on that. I think
Sure. Yeah, we
it's
should talk to
out.
someone who's it's really kind of taken
Exactly.
over their life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, so being overstimulated, if you do not know what we're talking about, which we could have probably started with this. hopefully
Now
you
that we're
kept,
halfway through.
yeah, hopefully you kept with us. If you're like, I don't even know what this is, why am I listening to this? Lo siento, should have started with that. Overstimulated is when there's just so many things going on around you and you feel like you just need to run in a closet and like hide because
Mhm.
it's too many people talking to you. It's too many sensory, like if you have sensory things, it's too much noise. Let's say there's a radio and someone's playing on their cell phone and like a child
Mhm.
is asking you a question and two are fighting over in the corner.
Mhm.
Or like at work, Melissa and I don't go to a job and work full time, but like I know what it is to be overstimulated at work. You have 7 things on your plate, like 4 voicemails, like someone has just brought you something and said, "Can you
Mhm.
do this?" You have 20 emails, and that can also be overwhelming, but they are different. They're all connected and they're all different.
Well, I think of overwhelming as okay. So again, I'm a visual person. Like I think of these visuals. So when I'm overwhelmed, I feel like a heavy blanket is laying on me, and I can't quite catch my breath. Whereas overstimulated, I feel like every nerve is exposed and
Yeah.
being messed with, and then I
And
feel
there's Tasmanian
agitated.
devils all around you.
Yes, yes, and it's like I can't. Yeah, so like overwhelming.
Good description.
Okay, good. Cause I'm like, they make so much sense to me when I think about it. Like those
Yeah,
are
a
the
heavy
immediately the things
blanket,
I think.
you don't know how to get out from under it. Overstimulated is you want to go under the heavy blanket.
You do. Just give me the blanket. I
Yeah,
don't care if I can't get out.
overwhelming. You're already under the blanket.
Exactly.
And they do go hand in hand, but like they are
Mhm.
different. And so, for me, and Melissa, I know you have said this too, like we just have to know what overstimulates us. We have to know what
Mhm.
triggers us. And so
Mhm.
for me, it's like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Like if I have, like right now, this week, I'm in my bedroom. If you can see, I'm in a different room because my friend is here. My good friend Evening is here and visiting, and she's staying in my home, which I love. We have had
Mhm.
so much fun, but her and I had to have a lot of conversations leading up to it because I'm home alone this week. My husband's out of town, and I still got to do all the mom things and all the
Mhm.
household things. And I just can't put my life on hold without being completely tanked at the end of it.
Mhm.
And so we had to have a lot of conversations about, hey, if I'm feeling really overstimulated, I'm just going to go sit in my room for a little while. And she's like, absolutely. And you should. And like, cause for me, it's just knowing what is going to overdo me and having
Mhm.
conversation, as amazing as our conversations have been. And they really have been, that can be overstimulating. And it's
Mhm.
like, sometimes I don't realize it until it's too late, or like,
Well, especially when your kids are around because they're still
exactly,
demanding your attention while you're trying to have this focused
exactly.
personal conversation. Yeah.
Yes. And we went on a hike yesterday while the kids were in school. And I said to her how she's not a mom. And I said, it's so great that like when my kids are around and they start talking to me, we just drop the conversation. We'll pick it up later. And then she engages with my kids. And it's
Mhm.
not like I have to manage like, hey, you're still trying to talk to me, but my kids are all needing me. And like, I don't have to say, can you just stop talking? Right. Like, I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, you've really, like, she's a very intuitive and like conscientious person. And she is not
Mhm.
very old. She's like not even 25. It's just kind of
Mhm.
amazing. And so, anyways, boundaries for me, it's boundaries. It's knowing what is going to undo me so
Mhm.
that I can put the boundaries in place as best as possible. Because what happens to me when I'm overstimulated is I lose it on everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I just got to run away and I can't be with them. And then, and sometimes it does turn into anxiety. And it's like, there is no logic in my,
Mhm.
my mind when I'm anxious. It's just, it's struggle. Would you agree with that? That like boundaries are huge with
Oh,
overstimulation?
yeah. Yeah, I keep thinking of boundaries, which is what exactly what you said, which is also sharing expectations. Like my
Right.
expectation of our time together
Mm-hmm.
is going to be this. And I want, in order for me to enjoy you the most, I
Yep.
need to be able to do this or yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. So my three things that I had, and you just touched on one of them, is boundaries, recognizing what you need, communicating expectations. Those are the ways that I have dealt with slash managed being overstimulated. Don't get me wrong, I still get
Mhm.
stimulated, but when I can look ahead and recognize, where do I need to put up boundaries? What am I going to need? And then communicating those expectations, everything is better with
Mhm.
kids too, because they're the ones that overstimulate me the most.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, hey guys, I'm just like not having a great day. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong, but like all
Mhm.
questions are overstimulating me. Can I just one at a time come to your room and ask you what you need without you all
Mhm.
coming to me and bombarding me? I will get to all your questions. I want to hear all your things. I just can't do it all at once. And I mean, I can't do
Mhm.
it all at once anyways, but especially if I already feel like my nerves are exposed.
Yeah.
And then it's like my sweet little kids or, and teenagers telling me about the things that happen at school, or like the thing that they learned, or about their new book. Like they just want me to hear
They're
them.
not
And
doing anything wrong
they're
and
not.
it's
And I want to hear them. But if I'm like, my nerves are exposed, like even my facial expression might be like, could you just hurry it up?
oh
And
yeah.
I don't want that. And so it's
Mhm.
recognizing what I need and communicating those expectations, like you
Mhm.
said,
Yep.
is huge. And then I even have some like phrases that I use to other adults, to my husband, to my kids. Like I just feel like these are all encompassing, all
Mhm.
relationships. I think even at work, you could implement these. Maybe not to your boss. I don't know. I'll let you decide. Depends on your
I will
relationship
tell
with
you
your boss.
after I listen.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple phrases is like, hey, can you ask me again at blank time?
Yes.
So like, my kids, hey, can you give me my allowance? Could you ask me after dinner? And I know that I could just set an alarm and do it, but also like putting the responsibility back on them.
Mhm.
One asking me for something, or someone's asking me a favor, and just being able to say, could you ask me again next week? Like I'm
Mhm.
having a week and I would
Yeah.
really like, let's say it's a favor that's longer than a week away, obviously.
Yeah.
Just, and then telling them when you think might be a good time. Next Tuesday morning is a great time to reach back out to me.
Mhm.
And I am a person who likes to take ownership. If you ask me, I like to like make it my responsibility, but also recognizing if someone's asking me for something, it isn't my responsibility.
Mhm.
you know, and they can come back to me, especially our children. They can come back to me and ask me. And then I get to decide when is the right time. Obviously, if it's like a text message that could be marked as unread, but like think about our text thread. You give me something and I need to get back to you in a week. We have a million threads.
No, you're not going to even remember. Yeah.
And a lot of my friendships are like that. And so, or Joey, like he'll text me like 5 things at work. Hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And they're all reasonable. And they are things like I need to do, not him. And I'm just like, can you just call me at 8 p.m. tonight when the kid, like, you know, Elan's in bed, really is the one I forgot about that one time. He's difficult to forget. I don't know how I forgot.
I don't know how you forgot about him.
I just need him to go to bed and then I can manage that. But we text a lot too. And so, okay, so that's my first phrase. Sorry, I made that long. Now's not a great time. Can I make a note to get back to you? So that's not putting the responsibility back on someone. Yeah. Similar thing, but now's not a great time. Can I make a note to get back to you? Some adults are like, I am not like this, nor is Melissa, but some adults feel that if they have reached out to you, you should reach back out to them within a certain period of time, whatever they have deemed as acceptable. And like, you don't want someone to think you're ignoring them or whatever. And so sometimes it's just a quick, now's not a great time. Can I make a note to get back to you? You know, like I'm really okay waiting 2 days to get back to somebody. I think we live in a world where we should be okay with that because that's how it used to be when you got phone calls. And for heaven's sakes, we didn't even always have an answering machine, right? It's like you just had to keep trying to get a hold of someone. That's me personally. If it's a business related thing, which I'm not currently in business, but there's a, you know, Monday through Friday
standard.
There's a different standard. Yeah. But I think it's perfectly appropriate and acceptable and healthy to say, now is not a great time. Can I make a note to get back to you? Or can I get back to you? So they know you've seen it, you understood it, and you've just bought yourself some time.
Yeah.
And then my last phrase, and I'm sure there's more, but these are just the 3 that came to me. My last phrase is, if someone's like comes to you and you're overstimulated and like you don't respond normal, maybe didn't respond inappropriately or rudely, just not normal. And it's like, sorry, it's not you, it's me. It's like, just to be clear, I'm sorry if I'm not being normal, I'm being weird or whatever. Like, it's not you, it's me. That goes so far because let's say Melissa comes and asks me something and I am overstimulated to the max. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's fine. Right. Yeah. It's not inappropriate. It's not even rude. It's a little short,
it's a little
like
blow-off-ish,
but it's not like wrong. Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. And then she might be like, okay, are you okay? Right. And so then I'm just like, I'm sorry, it is not you, it's me. And then she's like, great, I don't even have to spend another second thinking about it. Right. Isn't that how it leaves you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say more.
Oh,
you literally just,
I had a lot to say. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, we don't usually do that on our podcast. One word. Yep. No. And I just think we've talked about this, just owning our weirdness, owning our stuff. It goes so far. It opens the door of compassion and empathy and softness and understanding and good communication. Just saying, this is not about you. This is me. Sorry if I was weird, you know?
So something I taught my oldest son when he was younger, he was probably 5, because my kids don't overstimulate me hardly at all anymore, mostly because I'm more like, could I see you more? They're teenagers, so they're always got him like, come. But of course, when they were younger, they were always around. And we lived in a tiny house where even if they weren't around, they were still around. Like you could hear them everywhere because it was very small and not what we call a tiny house now. It was a small house that is not considered a tiny house.
Oh, not on today's standard. It was not exactly square feet.
I didn't truly live in a tiny house. It was just a very small house. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
To clarify. So anyways,
that's funny.
He would always be wanting to talk to me and ask me questions when I was in the middle of reading a new recipe or trying to make a phone call to the doctor or, you know, taking care of 3 diapered babies or whatever. He just was always. And so I said to him, and he talks and talks and talks a lot. Like he still does. He's almost 19 and he will follow me around the house and talk to me. In the
best way.
It is amazing. Yeah. I am blessed that he is so interested in talking to me. And so I had to ask him when he was little, I'm like, I need you to ask me before you go launch into what you say. Because I'm like, I want to hear what you have to say. But when I'm, like I said, on the phone with the doctor or
reading a new recipe,
I can't have anyone around.
No, my brain hurts. It's not that
and
hurt.
No, I don't know. Well, I think a lot of times recipes are broken up. So you like have to read so much of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's like they put the ingredients at the top, but then they put all the directions at the bottom. And then there's all this jumble in the middle.
Yes. And a lot of times the jumble in the middle leads to things you need to know for the recipe, is what I have found by not reading them and then ruining the recipe.
I never read the jumble, so I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have
well,
once.
If you probably better if you read the jumble.
If you read write a blog about food, I have never read it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And hashtag not sorry, because I don't have time in my life for that. And I don't like
I browse through it to get the tips because I need.
They do give a lot of tips. Yeah. So it's a lot of like, and if you're doing it on your phone, it's a lot of back and forth. Scrolling up and down, up and down.
Exactly. It's not the same as a cookbook that lays open and it just is right there.
Yes.
So all I just say is he would come and just start talking and talking and talking. And so I taught him that he needed to say to me, hey mom, is now an okay time to talk to you? Because then I could say, not right now, give me 10 minutes or wait till I get this in the oven or whatever. Well, then
or I'll call you back in when it's a good time.
Exactly. And that turned into, he would start every conversation with everyone. Is now an okay? Or, oh no, he would say, can I tell you something? That's what he started saying. Can I tell you something? So then he would do that to everyone, aunts and uncles. He would just be like, hey, can I tell you something? And then start talking.
Without waiting for the answer. Wait, what'd you say?
He would say, can I tell you something? Without pausing, he would go right into what he was going to say. So
sure.
Gave him more words to say. It didn't actually help with the overstimulation.
That is so funny. I forgot he used to do that. He's so old now. It's like, oh my gosh. I know. Oh, that's so funny. So, the Bible certainly does not talk about being overstimulated, but we've talked about rest and how Jesus, is our example of rest and things like that. And so there are plenty of times when Jesus chose solitude being with people. And we've talked about boundaries and when Jesus chose boundaries, right? And like Jesus very clearly communicated everything. Like he just was a very straightforward guy. And so all of those things apply. But I kind of wanted to focus on the reasons when Joseph, what's his name? Jesus.
You just took a drink of water and I almost spit it out.
Yeah, I was like, you can't hear that she's laughing, but she's laughing.
I'm trying not to spit my water out.
Right, Jesus. I have never called him Joseph. I don't even know.
The weirdest confusion mix up ever.
I was mixing Jesus and chose, and I said Joseph.
Oh,
I started down. Okay. Anyway, so there are some examples in the Bible of times that Jesus like left, and took, because I think that that's important too, is to recognize if we're overstimulated, there are times we can leave and take a break. Yeah. There are times when we're like I said to my friend Evening, I might need to go and spend some time in my room. And night I just snuggled with Elin. And honestly, it was like, she didn't overstimulate me at all. Like my kids actually weren't overstimulating me. I was just a little overdone. And so I just wanted to go lay in my room and we just snuggled for an hour before bed. And it's like, and she was like super happy. She's like, yeah, this is great. I got some alone time.
Yeah. Going on walks or bike rides or getting in the car and driving if it's snowing and too cold out, going away for a weekend with girlfriends or alone or your spouse.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's 6 different reasons that I found when Jesus would like choose solitude over being with people. And I just thought that these would be interesting to touch on. So he was going to prepare for a major task. And I will put all these scriptures in the show notes, but I'm not going to spend all this time because we're almost out of time, like listing the scriptures. But after Jesus was baptized, he went 40 days in the wilderness praying. And, we all know he was tempted and stuff there, but it was like before he prepared for this major task, he took this space. He took this break. And then when he would recharge after hard work. So he sent the 12 disciples out to do ministry. And when they returned, he encouraged them to separate from the people who were following them to get rest. Like, okay, you've done this thing. And these are boundaries. These are recognizing what you need, right? These are all these things that we've been talking about when he needed to work through grief. So after Jesus learned his cousin John the Baptist had been beheaded, he went away by himself. Like even the Son of God grieves and needs space to do that. And it's fine to grieve with people, but there's time when you just need to be alone. And before he made an important decision. So like early in his ministry, he spent the whole night alone in prayer. And the next day he chose his 12 disciples. And it's like, obviously he's in prayer, which I think we need to be doing when we're feeling overstimulated, but he spent the time alone. Because I can sit and pray all day long around my kids, but it's very different when I leave and I have alone prayer time. I sit in my car. A lot of times when I get home, before I enter my house, when I've left my kids alone, I sit in my car. I listen to one more worship song. I just take a beat. A lot of times they come rushing out to greet me, and then I just get out. But if they don't, then I do that. The 5th one is in times of distress. So hours before Jesus was arrested, we know he went to the Mount of Olives and went away from the disciples. Some of them went with him, but then he went away from some of the disciples to pray. And then the last one is just to focus on prayer. Many times in his ministry, he just spent time alone in prayer. And I think that these are really good things that we can draw from. You know, when we're overstimulated, it's important to know we can take space from people.
Yes.
And space from people, we've talked about this, like rest is not like scrolling on your Instagram or your social Facebook. It's taking space to actually like get the proper rest and like detox, if you will, that we need. And so anyway,
agreed.
To share those, I thought that they were cool. And
that's a really great list.
Thanks. We are like out of time, right?
Yeah, I think we are basically out of time.
Yeah. Do you have a challenge? Or I can come up with one.
Well, I guess the thing we didn't get a chance to talk about a lot of the specific things that overstimulate us outside of, we said, our kids. I mean, I think everybody who's a mom would say that kids just are overstimulating. There's just a lot to them. But so and obviously Rachel gave some tips on how she deals with that. But so for me, this is like the main thing that overstimulates me, that like sets me over the edge, is when my family is listening to things on their phones.
Yeah.
On the speaker on their phones. Like if like Bill will listen to music and I'm like, please just connect it to a speaker. There's something about, it's not the music, it's like the hanginess of it being on a phone.
Yeah.
It does something to some set of nerves that puts me over the edge, and my family gets annoyed at me, but I'm like, you can't, like, I can handle all the noise. I can handle everything you're doing, but you do that. And now I'm like, ugh. And so
your nerves are exposed.
Yep. And so just advocating for yourself, in obviously a kind way. And we don't want to be that nagging mom or wife or friend or whatever, but it's okay. The things that are going to do it, like without fail, just advocate for yourself. And so my challenge would be to just spend some time thinking, what is the thing or the few things that put me over the edge, and how can I maybe not get to that place where I'm like, exploding at everyone.
I like that. So spend some time thinking about what puts you over the edge.
Yep.
And what was the last thing you said?
And just advocating for yourself.
And advocating. And that's boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. All right. Well, you guys, we are, go ahead.
Yep. I was just going to say, I thought you were going to say we're going to be done, but we're going to take a 2-week spring break. So you will not hear from us most likely for 2 weeks. We might pop in and do a little surprise something, because I'm going to actually be spending a week in Arizona with Rachel, celebrating her 40th birthday.
Woot, woot. I'm so excited. Yeah. So we might pop in, but no promises. So
exactly.
Off. If you're not caught up and there's episodes you haven't listened to, go back and take a listen.
Now's the time.
And reach out to us on social media. Please don't email us if you have not listened to our conflict series. Right in the middle of it, we're like, go ahead and email us and then I was like, I haven't checked it.
I don't ever check that.
And I look and I'm like literally checking it while we're podcasting, and I was like, okay, good, no one's emailed us. And then I'm like, please don't email us.
Exactly.
So please don't email us, but reach out to us on social media.
Yes. So all of you are probably headed into some sort of spring break-ish, especially if you have kids. And so we hope that you guys enjoy time off, if you have time off, or kids at home or whatever. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.